PWNcast.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Season 2. We're doing seasons now.
Oh.
Of PWNcast, aka Episode 13.
Okay, well, hi everybody.
And today,
Season 2.
Today it's just you and me, man.
It is.
And who are you, by the way?
I am Pat, the Belching Irishman. Hold on.
Well then, because we really needed that.
Yeah, we did.
Grow up, man. This is Season 2.
On it. I know,
this is
it's
real
Season
talk
2.
now.
It is real talk.
This is the real shit. All right?
Anyway, moving past.
Some of you may have noticed that the audio quality for this episode has
vastly
jumped.
improved.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
That is because I have purchased a new microphone for use with PWNcast.
It's a big white ball.
It's a big white ball.
It's a big white ball.
Yeah, well,
It's a big white ball that listens to our
it's a
voices.
shame because I have two big white balls. Anyway,
And moving right along.
so today, since it's just you and I,
good
we
God.
actually have a main topic this time
We
instead of just
do.
bitching about news.
Yeah.
We are going to cover a
Actually
little
do
bit
have
of
a main
news
topic
first.
For once.
But then our main topic tonight is that Pat and I are the perfect people to talk about this.
Yes, we are.
We're going to be doing a retrospective of Resident Evil, the franchise.
Yes, we are.
The reason for this, leading into our first news story, is that Shinji Mikami, the original producer / creator of the first 3 Resident Evil games, has announced a new survival horror title. And it's going
Evil
to be...
Within?
Yeah, The Evil Within,
Yeah.
I believe, and it's being published by Bethesda. Or it's a Bethesda game.
Nice.
So, really looking forward to this.
Sounds wonderful.
I saw the trailer for it. It was a live-action shot trailer. And I think that this is going to be a fantastic game. This looks like a game that definitely blends elements from stuff like Silent Hill and other horror franchises out there. They've said stuff about the game already, like how ammo will severely be limited. There will be limited ammo this time, which is great to hear after Resident Evil 6.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, goodness.
Or even Resident Evil 5 for that matter, because you
Yeah.
could buy infinite ammo for
Yeah,
your
you
weapons.
could.
So it's great to hear that Mikami is back creating survival horror games.
Instead
because
of just kind of, whatever.
he pretty much started the
Because-
entire craze for it back with the original Resident
the
Evil.
entire genre is a mind-child of him inspired by some other older games.
Well, yeah, that in movies too.
Yeah.
Like early Romero movies. Before he lost his mind and started making grade A crap like Land of the Dead
Oh, good God.
and Diary of the Dead. And, but we don't talk about those.
Let's not touch on Romero's slow and
Painful death. No.
slow and very shambly descent into insanity.
I'm glad that Mikami is back, especially after Capcom gave him the shaft, which we will cover later on when we're talking about the Resident Evil games, because that's something I've mentioned.
That's important.
I've mentioned it before in a previous episode, but it's definitely something that needs to be talked about again.
Especially since it's going to be specifically for that particular franchise.
So-
And that's...
It's a game I'm looking forward to. God, it's I can already tell you.
Sounds like
I can already tell you it's going to be better than Resident Evil 6.
Danny.
Everything.
There are iOS games better.
The Silent Hill RTS
okay?
for the Vita is better than Resident Evil 6. That game's fucking horrible.
Oh goodness.
Anyway, other news stories. Microsoft has finally decided, Sony's already unveiled all their shit. Maybe I should try to unveil it almost 3 months later.
Yes.
The Xbox Infinity will be unveiled May 21st.
We can't even make a punchline out of it.
I know, that's the sad part, is that I really wanted to make a... I was trying to find out how I could make a joke about the Xbox Infinity, because
I don't know if there's a way to.
you heard all the jokes about the 360. Like, the dumbest one I've ever heard is, why do they call it the Xbox 360? Because you turn 360 degrees and walk away, which doesn't make any fucking sense.
I guess.
Because that means you're walking towards the 360.
I guess, yeah.
It's a stupid joke. Anyway, it's fucking horrible.
I know.
Infinity, I can't...
You can't make a...
I can't even make a joke about this.
There's not a joke about that one.
And then there's people like... oh, God, what's his name? I'm trying to think. Nolan Bushnell. Yeah. He's running his mouth saying that the Xbox is already the clear winner for the next console generation.
Goodness.
I would wait until we get some tech specs before making a judgment about a console war.
I don't know, and tech specs aside, the fact that that whole hashtag deal with it, crap. Yes. I think that's going to push a lot of people away.
That's something
that's going to push a lot
has
of people
happened
away.
Between our little break between episodes.
Adam Orth, yes, which
marketing.
He was fired.
Yes, I'm glad he
Which
was.
is wonderful news because he was relieved of his prestigious position.
Especially since I believe he had a major position within marketing.
Yes.
Which is extremely surprising because this explains a lot about Xbox's marketing if they have people like Adam Orth up there who are completely out of touch with the average consumer.
It does kind of make sense.
I'm glad it happened. I
think it's wonderful. No, he was... Alright. Regardless of the fact that he's a marketing or whatever the hell kind of executive he was, as a professional, it's not tolerable. That is not behavior that should be tolerated, regardless of what your job is. If it's something that you're relaying as a professional, you don't act like that.
Mm-hmm. And this goes to his reactions with the whole deal with it or whatever, and it's kind of your own fault if you're not jacked into the internet all the goddamn time.
Jacked in. Sorry.
This is because I've read a lot about this where Microsoft with the Xbox Infinity are banking on the fact that most internet service providers will provide an internet speed of at least 1 Gbps,
which
1 gigabit per second.
Yeah, which I mean, I'm sure it's a safe assumption, but it's not.
I wouldn't say by 2015. I wouldn't say that early because the United States, when it comes to how we deal with internet, we're actually kind of on the back end of that. There are several other countries that run a lot faster than we do. It's kind of a shame that we're behind on that. It just goes to show that our infrastructure is kind of shitty.
Yeah.
But hey, that's what they're banking on. The only thing I can say is that if the Xbox Infinity wants to be successful,
they're gonna have to ditch the always on.
Well, not only that, I don't know if you know this or not, but the 360 was really only prominent here in the United States. When it comes to Asia, Europe,
it didn't really sell.
No, because those are Sony-dominated markets. I mean, that's like the Sega Genesis in Europe kicked the Super Nintendo's ass.
Yeah.
Yet over here, it was pretty divided actually over here, and then you have Japan with.
It would just kind of depend, and then Japan has always been Nintendo and Sony master race.
Which I feel sorry for Nintendo because a recent news article had come out where they're posting about 50% losses from Wii U and 3DS.
Oh man,
that's not exactly something that I want to see because
no, we don't.
Despite how much I dislike the Wii U, I feel that...
Hey, there it was.
Yeah. Oh, on the list?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Nintendo misses profits forecast by 50% due to weak Wii U and 3DS sales. I feel like Nintendo has been a company that brought us back from the gaming crash of the 80s.
Yeah.
With the NES or the Famicom.
Yeah. They kind of paved the way for a majority of what we have now.
Yeah, I mean, other than the fact that, Atari kind of paved the way for video game consoles in the home, Nintendo helped perfect it.
Yeah.
And they were such a big name within gaming history that I feel that if Nintendo gets out of the console race and becomes something like a third-party developer, like what Sega did, I think that will be the ultimate downfall of Nintendo. And I don't want to see that happen.
No.
I just feel like that with the Wii U, they completely missed the mark. They released that console a few years too late, in my opinion. And they're still trying to market their console off of a gimmick.
Yeah.
Tablet gaming?
It's tablet gaming. I mean, you don't market a game console especially competing with the Infinity and and the PS4, even with it competing with the PS3 and the 360, you don't market it off of a gimmick.
The Wii U...
Especially tablet gaming.
The Wii U is a great console if you want to play this current generation's games, like Mass Effect 3. But can it run Crysis? Actually, it probably could run Crysis on low settings, but Crysis is a pretty old game. I just like using that little saying. But I don't know. I feel like if Nintendo goes out, if they become a third-party developer...
Do you think maybe that could push us closer to the crash?
I think that it's going to hurt everybody. Whether you're a PC gamer, PS4, or Xbox.
I agree.
I think no matter what happens, it's going to
you'll be affected.
Yeah, because then all these other developers and stuff like that are just
they're going to have to either come flocking to the other publishing companies, or they're going to flop over and die.
And that'll be a sad time.
That will be a very sad time.
And people who say that the gaming industry is not about to enter like a crash or something like that, I hate it whenever people deny it.
No,
THQ
we're close.
Is gone. It's and all these other IPs you see getting LucasArts died during our
dead.
break. No. What are you doing? You're clicking on the computer.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I want to see it.
No, not right now. We're recording.
Fine. Yeah, I know, but I can look at a picture while we record.
I don't want you to look at pictures while we're recording.
Fine.
Yeah, Edgit.
Fine.
Engine.
You're getting racist now.
I'm not getting racist at all.
Oh, boy. Didn't we already have this issue in an episode once?
Did we?
Yeah.
Racism?
Yes.
We can neither confirm nor deny that. Dear Phantasm Mask, I have found the exact time code in the exact episode from which you were racist. You are an oppressive capitalist pig, and I never want to watch your stuff again. Dislike, sincerely, butthurt fanboy 69. That's exactly what's going to happen now. Thank you. Thank you. But I going back to the Wii U, it's too late. It's too late for that. The Nintendo really needs to get their shit together and start appealing to a more hardcore audience instead of the casual audience.
Yeah.
Like what they did with the Wii. The Wii worked because it was a gimmick. That's why people bought it. Because I can play golf.
In my living room.
With wireless and motion controls.
Yeah.
I can bowl.
Which, I'm sorry, I think it's time to move past motion controls.
Yeah, and tablet gaming is just a fad. I'm sick and tired of hearing about tablets or the future.
It's unneeded. But motion controls, it's unneeded.
Yeah.
Since when did gaming become a chore? I shouldn't have to work. Just give me a controller. I'm done. That's all I want. Just give me a controller.
It also says here that Nintendo posts an annual loss of $366 million for 2012.
Oh my.
And their target was to sell 4 million Wii U's, and they hit 3.45 million. So that's a lot of fucking money. Just saying. That's like reading. About a year ago, you could swap out Nintendo with Sony, and that would have just been normal news. But it's sad that Nintendo is posting something like that, especially since the 3DS is still going pretty strong, too. It's for the most part, at least for the past few weeks, this hasn't been true. In fact, the past few weeks, the Vita in Japan has been outselling the 3DS. But for the most part, the 3DS has been dominating the numbers for quite some time. So it's kind of hard to believe that they would be posting losses for 3DS sales, especially since there's always going to be kids that want to buy it.
Absolutely. But there's also something that actually had a discussion about at work the other day. People aren't in an economic situation or a financial situation where they can drop $60 per game or $40 per game, and they don't want to pay $100, $200 for a game console. They'd rather wait until it's used and buy it at half to 3/4 of that price. So it's not necessarily that Nintendo's doing something wrong. It's not really. Like, I agree that the timing for the release of the Wii U was not correct.
Oh, no, I think it was a few years too late.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they should have... in fact, I almost kind of want to say that the Wii U shouldn't have been released at all, and instead they should have gone with something a little bit more powerful. I wouldn't say exactly as powerful as the upcoming consoles, or at least as powerful as the PS4, because we don't have Infinity specs yet.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say something as powerful as that, because for the most part, Nintendo games don't necessarily require that much power.
Yeah, there's not really a whole lot of a demand.
Honestly, how much processing power do you need
there
to make a new installment in the new Super Mario Brothers?
You don't really.
Franchise? Yeah, you don't.
And Zelda doesn't take a whole lot of them either.
Shit. Zelda at this point should look like fucking Skyrim on Max.
Yeah.
But you'll never see that
But
happen.
hey, that won't ever happen.
I mean, they're making a big deal about HD graphics on the Wii U. Guys...
We've had this for a while.
We've had this since you released the Nintendo Wii. This has been a thing for quite some time now. But hey, at least, good guy Nintendo, we enclosed an HDMI cord with your Wii U.
Yes.
You're the only console dev so far to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Sony and
because
Microsoft
then you
need to quit being cheapskates.
No, because then you go and spend money on their proprietary HDMI cord, and you're done.
Oh, there's nothing proprietary about it. I mean, it can have a Nintendo logo on it, but that doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, I know.
It's still an HDMI cord.
I know.
So, I don't know. I really don't want to see Nintendo go, because I've got so many fond memories of playing their consoles.
So many fond memories with Nintendo.
They need to strike gold like they did with the N64, the Super Nintendo. They need to get that again.
Yeah, they need to get the magic.
The GameCube, it did have some good pieces of software on that, but for the most part,
Yeah, there were highlights in the library for all of Nintendo's systems, but I think they lost the magic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I had a GameCube before I had a PS2 or regular Xbox.
Same here.
I mean, because the GameCube was the shit. I could play Rogue Squadron on that.
What do you mean was? Still is.
Yeah, I mean, it is better than the Wii, in my opinion.
Exactly.
I find the game library on the GameCube to
be much better.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But moving on from our sad little intro to Nintendo's going on Nintendo. Yeah, we covered fucking Cuntbag Orth. Let's see. What
Scumbag
else?
Microsoft.
LucasArts went out.
Yeah.
I called that the second that Disney bought out Star Wars, if you remember.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to hand off any of the works in progress?
No, because they've officially canceled all their works in progress.
But what about...
they even revealed that there was a Battlefront game that was being close to finished.
Yeah, so what's going to happen with all that?
They're gone.
That's terrible.
1313 gone.
Yeah, I know they're like gone, but I didn't know if they were going to give them to another developer to finish, or what they were going to do.
The only thing that LucasArts can do is give out the licenses to other developers to make a Star Wars game. Like, I wish they would do this, if they wanted to give the license of Battlefront to DICE and make a Battlefront game based off of Frostbite 3.
Oh man.
Yeah. I would buy that game in a heart. I would buy a gaming computer to play it. Yep.
Yeah.
Star Wars with a Battlefield feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Lasers and
hell yeah. Which I was discussing that idea with somebody the other day, and they brought something up that I kind of found interesting. Making it that pretty and putting it in a different point of view could actually take away from the game.
How so?
Like, it could take away from the game feel.
Of having a destruction engine and...
Yeah.
That's an improvement to me.
I don't know, he just said that it would feel different.
Yeah.
If it was in the different point of view and it looked so much nicer.
And if that developer were to take up that challenge, people would just go, oh, well, it's just Battlefield with a Star Wars skin. I would just be surprised that people would complain about that.
Yeah, why would that be a problem?
That's the thing with me.
See why that'd be an issue.
Why would you bitch about it?
Why is this...
Two awesome things come together to create a Jesus baby of gaming.
Oh, goodness.
This is the holy child.
Yay, more sacrilege.
Well, yeah, who do you think I am?
Hooray for...
Who do you think we are? Hertz?
Hooray for Sack. Ooh, whoa. Oh, goodness.
So, yeah, poor LucasArts. I mean...
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean fucking
you saw it coming. I wasn't really sure. I was kind of hoping they'd stick around, but you did see it coming. You called it long before any of this ever happened.
Yeah.
When we had even before Disney took them over, we had discussed about the possibility of them going anyway.
Yeah. I mean, 1313 was slated for release, I think, in either June or July.
That was supposed to be this year.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here going, okay,
looked good.
Where's the posters? Where is everything?
Where's the
thing? And you don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of gone. But hey, there's only one positive with LucasArts going out. We won't get any more goddamn Force Unleashed games.
Second one kind of killed it.
Yep, that was fucking horrible.
Oh my.
I'm the secret apprentice. I'm a whiny bitch.
Okay, now we can just go back to the first one now. I'm gonna.
Even that one was kind of eh.
I enjoyed it in that Star Wars cheese. Oh my god, I have a lightsaber.
It was.
Yeah, it was short.
So short.
But I enjoyed it in that Star Wars. I'm a Sith Lord and I can kill whoever I want. Cheesy
Why didn't
they
just make another Jedi Knight game?
Because
those games were extremely popular.
They were.
I'm kind of surprised that they never did. Raven Software still exists, as far as I know.
I guess because Jedi Outcast was the last one, right?
No, Jedi Academy.
Oh, okay.
I didn't really like Academy that much, but
I stopped at Outcast.
Yeah, Outcast was a fantastic game. I still play that to this day.
Yeah,
it's an
awesome
good game. Yeah. Oh look, that game was on the GameCube.
We got off topic again.
That's not. We're still talking about LucasArts and how they're meh, how they're dead.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's enough news. Now we got to get into the meat, man.
Yes, we do.
Resident Evil, 1996, Capcom. What?
Your battery thing.
My battery thing? Yeah. With a red X over it?
Yeah.
You're concerned?
Yeah.
You're breaking the fourth?
Yes, I'm breaking the fourth. I'm just making sure it's not going to die.
It's not going to die.
Okay.
I just need to replace my battery.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Just had to make sure we weren't going to lose everything. Alright, so we can start.
So 1996, first Resident Evil game, Capcom, PlayStation 1.
Hold on.
Where the hell are you going? No. Put your phone down. What are you doing?
I'm pulling up internet.
Oh. No! Don't hijack my podcast! What was the first Resident Evil game you had ever played?
2.
2?
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say mine was 3. The one that nobody really liked that much.
Yeah,
I still don't
there's a lot of about 3.
We'll get to that later, but the first game was the epitome of cheesy voice acting.
Oh god. Okay. The intro.
Oh, that intro?
No, because if we're going to start, we got to start at the beginning. The intro. I think the first game with a live-action intro, at least that I'm aware of, was the first game with a live-action intro sequence.
Well, before that, there were games on the PC, that FMV games, that were all real actors.
Okay, yeah.
Probably for the PlayStation, maybe. I can't confirm that. But, yeah. It was the first game I'd ever seen that had live actors.
Yes.
In a video game, really.
Yes.
And I actually played Resident Evil pretty late after it came out. I probably didn't play the first Resident Evil till 2001. I would have been 9 at the time. 10 years old. Yeah, it probably would have been like 8.
I played it in
time.
2002. I played 2 for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Resident Evil 1 was...
In 1996, we received a masterpiece.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yes, it's a masterpiece. Shut up.
I love it. I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece.
No.
I would say that this game is, it does not hold up at all today. For a game that's supposed to be based in horror, it's a very well-lit game.
It is very well-lit.
But the remake remedied that, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yes, it did. It's so beautiful.
I still like the game, even though I feel that it's a bit outdated. Out of the PlayStation titles,
just because a game doesn't wear its age well doesn't make it bad. Mm-hmm. GoldenEye, prime example.
Yeah, I feel that the first one out of the PlayStation titles is probably the one that's the least amount of has the least amount of good in it.
The least amount of good.
I don't want to say it's a bad
the least
game,
amount of good,
but it's definitely third on my list out of the 3 that I would play on the PlayStation 1. Other than that,
there were more than 3 for PS1. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
Wasn't there a light gun one for the PS1?
No,
there wasn't.
No, the
Or
light gun was PS2.
Okay,
That was. We'll get to that later.
yeah.
And then a year later, in 1997, we got the Resident Evil Director's Cut.
Which, in my opinion, is definitely, if you're going to play the PS1 version,
Play the Director's Cut.
Director's Cut DualShock.
Yes.
I think that's...
It helps a lot.
Yeah. It adds a few new areas to the game. And for people that whine a lot, there's an easy mode. And there's even an extra hard mode, too.
Yes. Which is... Oh, my God.
Is terrifying. I can't win!
Exactly. There's no way. It's not possible.
I own Director's Cut. I've never played the original version of it.
I haven't
I've
either.
only played Director's Cut. But I really enjoy it, and for the most part, from what I understand, other than like maybe 2 or 3 rooms, it is 100%
It's the same.
faithful
It's the
to the original version of it. And the first one's been ported over, I think, to the Sega Saturn.
Yeah, it's been ported over, I think, to pretty much everything that was out during that time.
It's even got a rendition of it on the Nintendo DS, which I used to
Deadly
play.
Silence.
Used to play that in high school, so
Which, it's pretty nice.
yeah, it is actually, and they fixed the whole thing where that you get in the later Resident Evil games where you hold in a shoulder button and you automatically draw your knife. Mm-hmm. I thought, thank you, finally. Now do this to 2 and 3.
Thank God. Yeah, do this to 2 and 3. Give me these.
So yeah, Resident Evil, the original, I think is a great game, despite the vast amount of cheese found within. This is a game that was influenced by early Romero films.
The wonderful things
And
that they
even
are.
Shinji Mikami has gone so far as to go, this isn't a game that you're supposed to take completely seriously.
Yeah.
It's definitely not.
And then, it's got gaming roots and some older stuff. Some other stuff like that, but it's just, I don't have it all, like...
It definitely helped bring survival horror to the forefront
Absolutely.
of the gaming industry.
Well, I don't know that I'd even say that.
Well, without the first Resident Evil game...
It began the franchise of survival horror.
Well, yeah, I guess.
On a mainstream level.
Yeah, definitely. Because without it, we wouldn't have stuff like Silent Hill.
Exactly. It brought survival horror
Which
to the
Silent Hill
masses,
is a topic for another day. I freaking
yeah.
love the Silent Hill series.
Silent Hill's kind of a love-hate thing.
Despite it has some bad titles, but so does the Resident Evil
man.
franchise. I can't
Yes,
discount both of them. Can't discount them for that.
Yes.
Resident Evil 2.
My personal favorite one.
2 discs, 2 characters.
2 characters, 4 campaigns.
Yep. 2 campaigns each.
And this actually began something that's prevalent within all of the subsequent Resident Evil titles up until 4, or excluding 4 because it includes 5 as well. Every Resident Evil game, at least the numbered ones, and multiple of the ones that aren't numbered, they all have 2 main characters. It's not always 2 discs, but there's always 2 main characters. Mm-hmm. And it's something that the franchise stuck to up until 4. Which they kind of did with 4, but it's a little bit different. It's set up differently.
It wasn't a full-blown campaign. They did have 2 playable campaigns in it. Even though you didn't really get the full second campaign until the PS2 version with Ada.
Well, I was kind of hinting more at Ashley because I'm more familiar with the GameCube version. But,
okay.
I mean, Ashley, you do play as Ashley for a short amount of time, and it kind of does count as a second character.
Well, have you ever played the Separate Ways campaign? Okay.
Yeah, I've done it. I've done it.
Basically, just 5 chapters of the game, maybe about 40 minutes each.
Just,
pretty a decent amount of time. Shorter campaign than Leon's, but
it's fun. It's enjoyable.
We're jumping ahead a little bit here. Resident Evil 2 is probably the most recognized.
Yes,
out
and
of
it's
the
also
series.
the first time we saw some of the most iconic creatures.
Yes, like the Licker.
The Lickers.
Mr. X.
Yes.
Who
Trenchy.
who's an extremely underrated.
Yeah.
He's overshadowed by the creature from Resident Evil 3, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Mr. X was kind of the precursor to him. I love Resident Evil 2. I've played through Resident Evil 2
more times than you can count.
Probably over 100 times.
I haven't played through it that many times.
It's a game that has high replay value. If you can't tell by the vast amount of times I've played it.
Yes, it's very high replay value. And if you connect with it and you enjoy it, it's gonna have that much more of a replay value for you.
It was a lot more in depth than the first one, moving around to a more variety of different areas. I mean, the first one you had the mansion, you had a lab, and then you had like a courthouse, or you had like a courtyard and a guardhouse. So that was about it. You pretty much had homely looking environments for the most part.
And then in 2 you have the city streets, the police station, the sewage plant,
and then you
had the sewers themselves,
sci-fi lab,
and
sci-fi
lab,
which I thought was because I had played 2 before I played the first one, and I saw that lab.
Wow. I was like, oh my god!
Yeah, the lab from the second one's like, dude, this is freaking amazing environment.
Yes.
Then you go, it's time to go to the lab underneath the mansion.
And you're like, oh my god, it's time to do it.
Oh man,
let's go.
There's a lot of concrete in here. Where's all the steel? This lab sucks. This is like the freaking budget version of what's going on underneath the city streets.
Yes.
But Resident Evil 2 definitely is one of those games that's memorable, and they're even in talks of remaking it in the style of the Resident Evil remake for the GameCube. Which, if they were to do that, shut up and take my money.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see that happen. If it does happen.
That would be wonderful.
Basically, what Capcom is asking is there going to be enough fan support for something like this? To which I have to say, are you dumb and do you like money?
Are you dumb and do you like money?
I mean,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, Resident Evil 2 had probably some of the most memorable moments of the series.
Yeah, the voice acting still was kind of eh,
but it was an improvement over the first one.
But it was a vast improvement,
such as
Ada.
My favorite example of bad voice acting from Resident Evil 2 is when you're playing as Leon and you enter the Kendo gun shop, and it's like, freeze! Who are you? What are you doing here? And Leon just looks at him, shakes his head, and goes, "Hold your fire! I'm a human." You just said that. Unlike any human I'm a human. Hold your fire. I'm a human. Acting. Anyway. In fact, they did have good voice acting, but only from one character. I'm trying to remember what her name was.
Who?
Birkin's Annette.
Sherry.
Annette.
Oh, his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, Annette
She
Birkin.
had her voice acting was fantastic in that game, actually. It kind of off-puts everybody else because it's like, this person seems like they're trained. These other people don't.
Not really.
So, so Resident Evil 2, awesome.
So that
introduced
moves
Hunk,
us. Yes.
The Hunk scenario, and Tofu.
Yes, the Tofu, the fourth survivor. So that moves us on to the premiere of one of the most recognizable creatures in all of Resident Evil,
and even gaming history.
And even gaming history, and still one of the most gruesome
and terrifying
creatures to be turned out from a developer.
Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Nemesis is the worst thing that has ever happened to my childhood.
Nemesis is, as we just said, one of the most terrifying things that's been turned out by a game developer.
Resident Evil 3, to me, is Resident Evil at its best for a myriad of different reasons.
Yeah.
Such as the ability now, we have a button combo we can input to do a 180-degree turn.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that's
wonderful.
Also, it looks slightly better than 2. I've noticed that going back and playing them on the PS3, there's a slight graphical improvement.
Yes, there is.
Granted, you still have rendered backgrounds, things like that.
Which I have no problem with pre-rendered backgrounds and stuff.
A lot of people discount Resident Evil 3 because it's not as long as 2.
But it tells the story completely.
Yeah, it tells the other side of the story of what's going on during the events of Resident Evil 2, and even leading up to Resident Evil 2. You play as Jill Valentine again.
Which I was good to see her. I was glad to see her return.
Mm-hmm. And probably the most unfitting outfit to wear during
absolutely.
a zombie outbreak. A tube top and a miniskirt is not exactly the best set of apparel to wear during a zombie outbreak. You are asking to die.
Not at all.
And become part of the undead. However, as a male gamer, I frankly cannot complain. Pixelated boobies. Anyway.
Jaggy pixelated titties.
That's some early Lara Croft stuff right there.
Oh yeah, pixelated boobs.
They're triangles.
Yes. They
Pyramids.
are pointy pyramids.
Pyramid head, pyramid
boobs.
PlayStation. Even though Pyramid Head wasn't until Silent Hill 2 on the PS2, but I like Resident Evil 3 a lot, and it also introduced the Mercenaries mode.
So, actually, I just realized something. We've done 90% of all of this without having to reveal any spoilers for anybody.
That's the best part.
So, if you guys have not played these games and this sounds appealing, go play them.
Oh, yes,
Wonderful.
definitely.
Absolutely.
We could definitely give recommendations.
Oh, my goodness.
For
90% of the franchise deserves a recommendation, with the exception of
70%.
Okay, yeah, no. There's a lot of clunkers.
Resident Evil Gaiden exists. And that's actually after 3 for the Game Boy Color.
Yes.
The one that's
Gaiden was terrible.
The one where it's not
Gaiden
canon and Barry Burton betrays you and goes to Umbrella and you're playing as Leon Kennedy. I'm on a cruise liner, so it's like Speed 2 with zombies.
Oh, goodness.
And thank God there's no Sandra
Gaiden is
Bullock.
horrible. Okay, but we'll get to Gaiden soon, actually.
Mercenaries mode is a thing that's been in the Resident Evil series for the most part since.
In at least the numbered titles that I know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's been in 3, 4, 5, and 6 since then, and then a couple of the other offshoot titles have it as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the Mercenaries mode in Resident Evil 3 is actually
the best variation
of
it.
The rest of them are just shoot as many enemies until the time runs out.
In 3 there was actually a point to it. You had something you were setting out to do.
You have a timer, and you have to reach a certain point,
or else
you die.
And it's just you're
rescuing
dead.
survivors on the way, dispatching enemies. It was really
increases
challenging.
Your time, and they use the same format for 4, 5, and 6. It's just not as pointed.
Well, yeah,
kind of more. It's a lot more general, kind of. Bleh.
It's not objective based. It's just kill as many as possible.
Which, especially with 6, they throw so much at you. Which I don't know what your thoughts on this are, but I'm confident enough to say I'm pretty good at Resident Evil. Especially 4, because I've played it so many damn times. But when you've been playing the same game format, the same style of gameplay for so long, and you're dying strictly because of the sheer number of enemies that's being thrown at you, you're doing something wrong. The game is doing something wrong.
So,
which we can nitpick at 6.
Yeah,
later on.
That'll come later.
Yes, it will.
After this, as we mentioned Resident Evil Gaiden, but the next major installment.
We're
actually missing one?
Yeah, Resident Evil Survivor. That shiny little turd-colored gem. It's not a gem at all. Resident Evil Survivor is a first-person Resident Evil game for the PS1.
So you mean House of the Dead?
No, it's not a rail shooter.
Huh?
It's not a rail shooter. You wander around, you explore, just like the numbered titles, in first person.
It's gotta be annoying as hell.
It's annoying. It's terrible.
Okay, well, fuck that game.
Skip over Resident Evil Survivor.
Fuck that game, move on to Code Veronica.
Code Veronica, the next major sequel is Code Veronica.
What are your feelings on Code Veronica and Code Veronica X?
It was alright. I didn't have a lot of love for Code Veronica, but I played through it and I enjoyed it.
I didn't like Code Veronica at all. I thought that Code Veronica was I thought it was a pretty bad game.
You thought Code Veronica was a bad game?
I didn't really like Code Veronica that much. The thing about Code Veronica that I did not really like was I got to a certain point in the game where I was literally stuck. I had plenty of ammo.
Yeah, the game kind of it drops you.
Yeah,
and you have nothing else telling you where to go.
It's not that I was running out of ammo. I had plenty of it. But the damage resistance on some of the enemies in that game are so unbalanced.
It is ridiculous.
Also, I wasn't really too big on the plot. I've never really liked Claire Redfield as a main protagonist.
That was a big part of why I was kind of about it. I wasn't really too big on her character, but still.
And in some aspects, I think it's a step back from Resident Evil 3. I felt that it played a lot worse than RE3.
It felt clunkier.
Yes.
It didn't feel as smoothed out.
When it came out for the Dreamcast, later the PS2, had a GameCube port, and now it has an HD version for 360 and PS3.
I think maybe the biggest problem for Code Veronica was maybe it was rushed.
I don't know whether or not that's true.
Well, they were switching over to a new format. It was a new set of consoles.
And
it was a new set of consoles. They were trying to switch things up, make things a little bit better. So maybe they might have kind of rushed it a little bit, trying to get things out by a certain time period or within a certain window, and they ended up having to cut some corners necessarily to save on time. I don't know if that's true, but based on the time window with the other releases and such, that would be a guess I'd be willing to put forward.
I've heard that the game gets a lot better when you start to play the second half of the game as Chris Redfield. Sadly, I've never gotten that far.
The section it does improve when you have control of Chris, but it's not like ridiculously
Ashford
noticeable.
Is annoying.
Ashford is weird.
Yes.
That entire family was so friggin' weird.
It's not really that big of a spoiler, but he is a cross-dresser.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really strange to see a high up with an umbrella be a cross-dresser. And then, not to spoil anything, but who he cross-dresses as is even stranger.
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't know. I didn't really enjoy Code Veronica that much. Maybe one day I'll finish it. What's next on the list? Since you have the list pulled up.
Next is Resident Evil Gaiden.
Oh, I thought that was after 3. We already talked about Gaiden.
We did talk about
Fuck Gaiden.
But in chronological order, Gaiden was after Code Veronica. And then Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica, which is another first-person game.
Oh, God, they made a second one off of Code Veronica?
Mm-hmm. It's set in the Code Veronica era.
What the hell?
So, we can... Survivor 2, we already said our piece about Survivor. The next one is the Resident Evil remake on the Nintendo GameCube.
The Resident Evil remake, huh?
One of my personal favorite games in general, not just in the franchise, but
Resident Evil
general.
Remake is the definitive Resident Evil title.
Absolutely, and always has been.
It's
yet to be topped.
Even though I said definitive about RE3. Remake, remake, or remake, as they call it.
Okay, the Resident Evil remake is Resident Evil.
Is terrifying.
It's scary. It's suspenseful. That's the same thing.
It is the first time that I've ever been scared playing a Resident Evil game.
Yes,
because I've been, this game was so bad that when I first started playing it, I was even playing it during the day, in a well lit room, sunlight. And I was afraid. I was terrified.
Oh, I was too.
I mean, the noises that just a basic zombie makes are enough. And the fact that you still have fixed camera angles and you can't see them some of the times. And
you have no idea what's around the...
An impressive
effort.
And the fact that they want to make a remake of Resident Evil 2 in that style.
God, I'd love that.
And speaking of the Resident Evil remake, The Evil Within that we were talking about earlier, the majority of the team that worked on Resident Evil Remake is working on that game.
I'm sold.
Yep. It's the Resident Evil Remake, despite how much different it is.
Which there is a vast difference between the original and the remake.
I think the ratio is about 70% different. Yeah. Pretty much the only thing that's the same, there's a lab. The lab shares a similar layout.
Neptune! The sharks.
Yeah, I hate the sharks.
I love
hate
those.
the sharks.
I love those.
Fuck the sharks. Plant 42.
Oh, good God, no.
You have to have basic knowledge of chemistry in order to
properly kill the stupid thing.
What else was there? The introduction of a mechanic that hasn't been seen since in a Resident Evil game. The Crimson Heads.
Yes.
Which
the Crimson Heads are in some of the later games.
Well, I think on the rail shooter ones they are.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to those in a little bit.
Still, it's
but you either burn the body or decapitate them to stop them from turning, but over a certain amount of time, these zombies get back up and they're able to run and break down doors.
And they have claws and they're able to do a lot more damage. It's a lot scarier.
Yes. The first time I encountered a Crimson Head was a lol nope moment.
Exactly.
Nope!
Nope, I'm done.
Yep.
And literally the Crimson Heads take away every advantage that you had.
Yes.
The most prominent one being obviously speed, seeing as you're dealing with shambling corpses. And that's the biggest advantage you had in any of those games. And the Crimson Head's ability to actually move faster than you eliminates that. And that's
but you could also use Crimson Heads to your advantage.
You could, because they'll maul other zombies.
Yes, they will just cut right through them.
It's just... and you're done.
So you're like, thanks for saving me ammo. Oh, shit!
Exactly. Thank you for saving me. Oh, crap.
Aim high. Anyway.
Yeah, aim high.
So, I really like the Resident Evil remake. I really wish that instead of just porting 2 and 3 over to the GameCube like
they would have done it in the same manner.
I wish they would have got remake treatment for 2 and 3 for the GameCube.
Mm-hmm. That would have been wonderful.
The Resident Evil remake to me is definitely the Resident Evil game to play.
Yeah.
You can get it for the GameCube, and I think they even ported it over to a Wii disc.
Mm-hmm. They ported it over via the Resident Evil archives.
Yes. So
which has 90% of the franchise now available on the Wii via the archives.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's a lot of
They even have Code Veronica?
Stuff. Yes.
Wow, I didn't even
I'm
know
fairly
that.
certain there was an archives release for Code Veronica.
I know it was on the GameCube, so...
Yeah, no, but like they put it... I'm pretty sure they put it over on one of the Wii discs.
And then what's next? What's next after
Resident
remake?
Evil 0.
Never played it.
Alright.
Rebecca Chambers not sold. Never played it.
Resident Evil 0 is one of the few Resident Evil games that I will say was unenjoyable.
How so?
It was... Okay, because it was an attempt at a remake. Or not a remake, I'm sorry, a prequel. It was an attempt at a prequel that I don't think plotline-wise was particularly well done. It seemed like there were things that they kind of omitted in order to kind of make it fit in. And like certain things dealing with Umbrella and virus and stuff like that, there were like these leech type monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like where the virus came from or something like that.
So it kind of sets up what would later become in the franchise with the whole parasite thing.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which that way, or taking 4, 5, and 6 into account, the parasite with the leeches and all that, it kind of fits in. So I can understand where they were going with that. But they forced a partner mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Like you didn't play as one or the other, or sorry, you played as one or the other, and you switched back. It wasn't I'm going to play as Billy, I'm going to play as Rebecca. It kind of forced you to play as 2 different people and coordinate things by yourself.
Would you prefer the game if it was more of a co-op experience? Like a local co-op thing?
I think that may have been a better choice.
Where one player plays as Rebecca and the other one as Billy Cohen?
I think that may have been a better choice, but ideally I think the best way to set it up would be put them 2 separate campaigns. It was a 2-disc game to begin with. Put it 2 separate campaigns, have the other one AI controlled.
Interesting.
I would have preferred that way. I'm a bit more of a purist like that.
I mean,
have the other one just AI controlled and cutscene events only.
The only things I know from Zero are from the Umbrella Chronicles, the rail shooter on the Wii, because I played through that entire thing and that covered Zero.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever was in that game story-wise is what I got. So
okay. I don't remember
which
what was
is
in
actually a lot, especially with characters behind the scenes. Like there's even some aspects of it that are told from one of the main antagonists of the franchise, Albert Wesker. There are some things that are told from his perspective in the Umbrella Chronicles. In fact, I think that was the main selling point of that game.
Yeah, is that it's through Wesker's point of view.
What was Wesker doing while everything was going to hell in Raccoon City?
Yes.
And that was in fact, we'll get to those later, but yeah. What's after Zero?
After Zero is Resident Evil Dead Aim. That is the light gun game compatible with the GunCon 2 for PS2, but it wasn't a rail shooter. Resident Evil Dead Aim was a combination between an RE4 type point of view and a first-person shooter. For the first time, you had the ability to walk and shoot at the same time.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You could move very slowly while you were in first-person mode to fire your weapon.
I thought the second Resident Evil Outbreak was the first game to advertise that, because I know that was a big deal when File Number 2 came out.
They were the first to advertise that.
Huh.
But
interesting.
In Dead Aim, you could move very slowly while you were shooting.
Never played it, so I like
the
Survivor and Dead Aim.
storyline for Dead Aim was terrible. It was a trudge through a field of just dud mines, just dud landmines, just nothing.
So the movies.
Exactly. There was nothing there that added anything. It was kind of because there was a couple of offshoot games where it was merely just revolving around. We need to explain what happened in Raccoon City when it had already been done and all that. They had already explained all of it, and it was basically Dead Aim showed off tyrant variations.
Okay.
And some of them weren't very good. I mean, you fought some of the iconic monsters, your typical zombie, and then the hunters. They were a bit more amphibian looking.
Mm-hmm.
But they were in there. They did make an appearance, and then you fought a bunch of different variations of the tyrant. The main villain and final boss being like a female thing. It was a guy.
Thing.
No. It was a guy supposedly. But when it turned into
it's
a
like
tyrant,
a walking mangina.
No, but when it turned into a tyrant, it had tits and high heels.
Okay, that's just silly. That's Devil May Cry territory.
Bitch shot lightning.
Okay,
right?
that's definitely
Bitch shot lightning.
That's Devil May Cry
It was
territory
Trish.
right there.
It was Trish as a tyrant. And they were quite supple. They were quite large.
That's
so,
Capcom
I mean,
for you.
it is Capcom. So, Dead Aim, take it or leave it. Having the ability to have the gun con control, I can kind of understand why it would be fun, but I didn't really like it.
What's next?
Next
Dead
is
Aim.
Resident Evil Outbreak.
I like Resident Evil Outbreak.
Outbreak was good as long as you had people to play with.
I think even doing it with the AI
by yourself was
because I did that for the
fun.
longest time because I didn't have a network adapter for my PlayStation 2. Then I finally got one.
Outbreak is wonderful if you have small chunks of time to play in. Like, so I would always do it. Like, anytime I would sit down to play, something would happen, and I'd have to go somewhere, or my parents would need me, and I was able to say, "Give me 30 minutes, burn through a particular campaign section in Outbreak, and I'm done. That mission's done." So it's good if you have a finite amount of time.
Yeah, I really liked.
And there are some very interesting things in Outbreak, like stuff you find, little gimmicky things you see.
They use settings from the Raccoon City Resident Evil games. They even throw in some characters.
Yes, they do.
Like Nikolai.
Yes,
from
Nikolai
Resident Evil 3.
appears. The creatures appear out of nowhere. The creatures are actually randomly chosen at the beginning of every time you load one.
Yes, that's true.
Which I thought was wonderful because that adds a huge variety to it. Because the first mission, which is or the first part of the campaign, which is in a bar, could be anything from, you could have your typical zombies to you could have hunters and a tyrant knocking down your door in the beginning of the game.
Which is extremely unlikely.
It's very unlikely.
But shit happens.
But hey, worse has happened.
I love the Outbreak games. I think that's definitely how you do a Resident Evil multiplayer game.
Absolutely.
And I would love
to see that picked back up and readdressed.
I would love to see an Outbreak file number 3 on like the PS4.
That would be good.
Oh, that could
be good. I think they need to kind of tighten the point of view a little bit, kind of bring it down so you see a little bit more of the character, kind of a little closer to them.
Yeah, and
kind of level out the point of view a little bit.
The fact that every character that you're able to pick has their own unique ability.
Yeah, like the cop. There was a cop, a security guard, a train
plumber.
conductor, a plumber, who you could like craft weapons with, and you made some funky shit.
Nobody liked the conductor.
Because he was a jackass.
Well, yeah, his ability was to flip a coin, which would tell him if there's going to be a threat coming up, to play dead. And then one of his many sayings, if he's an AI, he'll constantly keep on going, "My life is shit.
Exactly.
My life is shit." I just want to shoot him.
I don't know. The best one was the cop, I think.
Yeah, he was a bit OP with that pistol, though.
Exactly. He started out with a pistol.
If you could ever find ammo for it, that is. So, but it was.
I pretty much gave it up after the bar sequence was done.
He's got that thing where he can do like an even more accurate aim or whatever, where he throws his arm back or whatever.
And it just takes. He's just a little bit slower.
But it does more damage.
Yeah.
Especially with that bigger handgun. It definitely helps against boss characters.
Yeah. So, the next game on the list is Resident Evil Outbreak File number 2, which amped up the amazing settings even more. Zombie elephants.
The Raccoon City Zoo.
Yes. The settings in Outbreak and Outbreak File number 2 were amazing.
Run and shoot at the same time.
Yes, you could do it.
It was awesome.
It was clumsy as fuck, but you could do it.
Same thing to say about the first Outbreak. Moving on.
Pretty much, yeah. Alright. Up next. Oh my.
Oh.
Oh
I don't like that look.
Up next is Resident Evil 4. Regarded as far as I can tell from multiple gaming journalism sites, regarded as one of the greatest action games ever created.
And it is also one of the games that's been through several different iterations and been through development hell.
Exactly.
Have you seen some of the early stuff that they were proposing?
Yes, I have. Resident Evil 3.5. There was some scary shit there.
Yeah, with the whole mist and all
that.
You definitely went into Silent Hill territory.
Absolutely.
Also, the fact that Devil May Cry was
supposed to be
Resident Evil 4, and it spawned off into its own franchise.
It was morphed into a game, a standalone title that focused on the coolness of the character and stylistic combat.
Yeah, basically Leon with
which
the sword.
which is why the first Devil May Cry has a very kind of dreary, horror-esque look to it. Mm-hmm. They kind of kept the same type of setting and amped up the gameplay a little bit.
Yeah. Resident Evil 4, I remember when...
I remember when this came out. I remember
gaming magazines when this thing was announced, looking at screenshots for it. I was obsessed over this game because looking at it...
I still am.
Yeah, you are, and it's kind of sad. But then again, with 5 and 6, I don't blame you. I can't. I can't fault you for that. In fact, I played through the game recently.
Yes.
And captured it. And put it up on my channel, www.com.
Shamelessplug.com. Yeah, anyway.
Shamelessplug.com. So, 4 is...
shamelessplug.tv. There we go.
Ooh, here we go. Resident Evil 4, at the time, was the shit.
It absolutely was.
This was brand new. We've never seen a Resident Evil game like this.
And I remember I actually ended up getting it when I was in... It had been out for a couple years. Mm-hmm. And I got it, and I told him, and he's like, just play it. He wouldn't tell me anything about it. He's just play it.
Yep, just play it. I had to borrow my copy the first time when it had come out because...
I got mine at a pawn shop for $5. I still have that same copy, too. It's that same copy. It's never left me.
I finally didn't buy a copy of Resident Evil 4 until it had come out on the PlayStation 2. And then with the whole thing about... the game did have its share of problems in the press.
It did.
This game had a lot of controversy when it came out because this was the most graphic Resident Evil.
Violence-wise, most graphic Resident Evil.
To the point where we were even discussing this before we started recording about how it's got censorship in places like Japan and Germany where they take out decapitations and blood.
Which, oh my goodness, if you get a decap, especially earlier on in the game before stuff starts coming out of their neck, there's gushing. Just blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's a mess.
Yeah, an absurd amount of blood gushing out of the head. I liked the setting, but I feel, looking back today, once you get to the castle portion of the game...
It kind of drags on.
It's a mood killer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the castle is easily the worst part of the game, to the point where when I get to the castle, I have to stop playing because I'm sitting here going, fuck, I really don't want to do this. Because it's the castle.
Yeah, the castle kind of...
It feels misplaced, but...
The castle, it makes the game drag on.
Mm-hmm. And
it bogs the rest of the game down.
You can tell, if you've seen the stuff from the early versions of Resident Evil 4, well, like we were talking about with like the fog and stuff like that, you can tell that the castle is left over from that.
Yeah, and it is. Because like, the Resident Evil 3.5 footage with the fog and the little baby things in the mist and swoosh stuff, you're in a castle that looks much like... That looks much like Salazar's castle.
Mm-hmm. Resident Evil 4. I feel it still does hold up.
I think it absolutely holds up.
An HD version of it on current gen consoles. It's had several different versions: GameCube, Wii, PS2, HD on PS3 and 360,
and the PC.
Yeah, and a PC version. Everywhere.
It's been that game has literally gotten on every console.
Yeah, for the most part. My only thing is that I didn't know this at the time, but this also leads into the whole Shinji Mikami thing in Capcom. And how Capcom had defied his wishes with the agreement that they had between the consoles.
All right. The Resident Evil 4 would only
Resident Evil goes to GameCube. Devil May Cry goes to PS2, Onimusha goes to Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
That was the deal.
And when they took
Capcom,
not Devil May Cry, but they took Resident Evil and
no, I think it was just Resident Evil.
No,
it started with Resident Evil 4, where they started.
I know,
they
but
put it on the
Onimusha
PS2.
was on PS2 as well.
Oh, did they later bring it over?
Mm-hmm. They ported it over.
Capcom said, we like money. We want money. So we're putting it on the PlayStation 2.
Yet they did... No, I'm not going there. I'm not going there.
Not yet.
I'm not going there. No, it's not even related to Resident Evil. I'm sure you know what I'm getting at.
Mikami said this, if you port Resident Evil 4 over to the PlayStation 2, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Capcom did it anyway. Mikami left.
And he left.
I don't blame him.
The franchise has not been the same since.
I don't blame him. I really don't. You don't piss off one of the greatest creative powers within your own company.
Exactly. And then expect him to stick around and still make games for you.
I think that was a very wise decision on his part. But at the same time, it also ruined the brand, which probably leads us into Resident Evil 5.
Not yet.
Not yet?
No. There are 2 that came out before it.
What?
Resident Evil Deadly Silence.
That doesn't count.
Which was the DS port of the first one. And Resident Evil The Umbrella Chronicles.
It's a Resident Evil House of the Dead clone. Moving on.
Moving on to the somewhat underpolished turd of Resident Evil 5.
Resident Evil 5 is an action game, not a horror game, and not a Resident Evil game.
Moving on.
Brick Redfield.
Moving on.
And yes, you bastardized one of the main antagonists of the series.
You should expect backlash.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So after Resident Evil 5, which is that all we're touching on for 5? I'm perfectly okay with it.
The only thing I have to say about 5 is Jill Valentine's boobs got bigger and her hair changed color. You killed off one of the greatest video game villains in history, who magically gets a god complex.
Mm-hmm.
Just all of a sudden,
he thinks he's God.
Why did he do it before? Because he was working for a renegade organization opposite Umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, no, now he wants to become God.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Thanks, Capcom.
Thank you very much.
So, fuck you.
Following Resident Evil 5 is Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles, which is another House of the Dead-esque rail shooter, taking place during 2, 4, and
a side story with Leon and Krauser.
Yes. Thank you.
Now, when we say that it's just a House of the Dead clone with Resident Evil, I'm not saying it's bad.
No, Darkside Chronicles and Umbrella Chronicles are great games. They're a lot of fun.
Definitely. You got 2 people, they're a lot of fun to play.
It's a blast.
Just as fun as House of the Dead, in my opinion. And I love House of the Dead, despite how over the top they are.
The best thing about Darkside Chronicles, I prefer Darkside Chronicles because Leon is my favorite of the Resident Evil heroes. Darkside Chronicles, stylistically, the art is the same as RE4. Mm-hmm. And I loved the art. I loved the art style for RE4.
Yeah, and the thing about it too is that it's shit. I can't even remember what I was going to say. It also sheds some light on events within the Resident Evil timeline that
it did. It kind of showed off some things that we hadn't seen yet.
Yeah, and I don't know. I really like those games.
Yes, they were good.
They feel good. You could get them on the PS3 as well.
Feel really good.
They're actually on sale right now. All the Resident Evil games are on sale on PSN right now.
They're hurting for money.
Well, yeah, up to 60% off. On all of them. I think.
Wow.
Yeah, you can even get the first 3 Resident Evil games, I think, for $2 or something like that.
That's wonderful. That's amazing.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 HD for $9.
Nice.
So, not bad.
No,
they even have Operation Raccoon City on sale.
Now that we found our shameless plug.
Sony, where's my paycheck?
Exactly. Alright, now on to our next title. The shameless money-grabbing attempt to... money grab, I guess, would be the only other way to say it. Would be Resident Evil 5 Gold Edition. Packing all the DLC into one box and shipping it off all over again.
It wasn't bad. $30 for Resident Evil 5 and all its DLC. It's a pretty decent package, actually.
I don't know what all's in there, so... I have not done...
You have not seen Gold Edition?
I've steered around 5.
I've owned it. I've owned Gold Edition.
Was that the one that we played? Was Gold Edition?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
It had all the Mercenaries DLC, Versus Mode, all
that's
that.
right, because that had all those other characters and skins.
The 2 extra campaigns, including Lost and Nightmares, which was kind of like the throwback to the original. Resident Evil.
All right, so because we are kind of getting close to what I think is a pivotal time in the franchise. After Resident Evil 5 came out, or when Resident Evil 5 came out, I know we've discussed it. The franchise went into a massive decline. Resident Evil kind of fell into a hole, and it was stuck. It had no way out. So 5 and multiple of the subsequent titles kind of just served nothing more than to kind of dig it further into a hole.
What's next on the list?
Resident Evil Mercenaries 3D for the 3DS.
Never played it.
I played it once, and unfortunately I can never start it over again.
Why is that?
Because in the Mercenaries 3D, there is a built-in mechanic with the saving system where you cannot delete your save file.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh, don't mind me.
An attempt to eliminate used game sales. Which
as moronic as EA.
To that, I say, screw you. Because you buy it used, everything is unlocked, you have all the characters, all the weapons, you run through all the missions with all that extra equipment, and it's a cakewalk.
That sounds like something EA would do.
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah, you buy it used, everything's unlocked, and there you go.
But was it still fun?
Yes, it was fun.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
All right, to one of my favorite of the later ones. One of the only ones that I actually enjoyed that was after 5 was Resident Evil Revelations, which is getting a release relatively soon. Is it next month?
Less than a month, yeah.
Yes, and it was a wonderful game.
It'll be the first time that I get to play that game because I waited, because when they announced that it was coming out to consoles, I was originally going to buy a 3DS for it, but then they announced, we're just going to upgrade the graphics and put it on...
Oh my god, it's wonderful.
Put it on a newer, on current-gen console. So I go, okay, I'll wait. And it comes out...
It's wonderful.
It comes out about a week and a half after my birthday, so...
That's so wonderful. Which, we have to play that on console, so...
Well, I'll buy it.
I know.
It's like $50.
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. I'm not paying for it. I don't know. I'm going to look at getting it on PC, so...
Is it getting a PC release?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
A Resident Evil game on PC?
I have a controller.
Move on.
Alright, so after Revelations, we have Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, a game that was trumpeted to be based around what-if scenarios.
And you know what? When they unveiled the trailer for this game, I was excited.
I was too.
I thought that this was going to be an awesome game.
I thought I was going to be able to kill Leon Kennedy.
You have an Umbrella Black Ops team running through Raccoon City, eliminating VIPs, like STARS members and things like that. It was a nice... I liked how they were advertising, like, this is a what-if scenario, you know, what if they had done this, and this.
You know, what if this had happened, if Leon had died, all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, like if you assassinated Leon Kennedy.
Yes.
The only... well, I shouldn't say the only problem, because that game is riddled with problems.
It has a lot of problems.
Gameplay, story, length of the game, and the fact that half of the game is DLC.
That's right, because they didn't release half of the game.
Yeah, that's right.
You
only got the Umbrella half when they had advertised that there would be 2 different campaigns, an Umbrella and U.S. military campaign. U.S. military campaign is DLC that you have to buy, which at the time was $10 a pop. Per mission.
Nice.
Fuck that.
Wow.
And fuck you, Capcom. And it was on disc.
Which, that hole that Resident Evil was in that I mentioned earlier is not necessarily due entirely to quality of the games. It's also due to Capcom's very lackluster business practices. Lackluster, putting it nicely. Very, very, very under...
You mean unethical?
Just kind of meant not sterling, not too
You
great.
honestly think that would fly with the Better Business Bureau over here in the States?
I don't think so,
No, it wouldn't. But because they're Japanese.
They're Japanese, so the arrogance of Japanese developers.
Well, their excuse is, well, that's how we distribute DLC in Japan. I've got news for you. Your game gets sold in other places besides Japan. Quit being an arrogant ass.
And
plan accordingly.
Exactly. Alright.
That's what multiple regions are for.
So Operation Raccoon City was a flop.
Sadly. I
quite ungraceful flop.
Yeah, I bought the limited edition.
Yes, I know you did.
And I was severely disappointed.
So we move on to pretty much the only one I haven't played yet.
Resident Evil 6?
Yes.
Resident Evil 6 is a game that is too long, And it's not really that much of a game.
Is it even a game?
Oh, it's a lot like Metal Gear Solid 4. It's just a movie.
With occasional interactive bits.
Yeah, it's nothing but quick time events and Michael Bay.
Yes. Which, I've seen Resident Evil 6 played enough to kind of have a grasp on how things are and what the game is like itself. No.
Yeah,
It's just a great big no.
And the thing is, Resident Evil 6 is considered a failure by Capcom, but it's a failure that they're not really willing to advertise.
Exactly, they're not willing to say, yeah, this game didn't
The
work.
Forecasts that they've continually had to drop the forecast of projected
sales. And when you have to move the
RE6
forecast down
3 times, mind you, which
Good
almost
God.
never happens with the game.
No.
Once, maybe. 3 times for a AAA title, a flagship title of your brand?
Yeah, no.
What the hell are you thinking?
What did you do that was so monumentally wrong that it's that drastic of a change?
The game's also too long.
25 hours?
Yeah, roughly about 5 hours
for
of
all,
campaign.
For all 5 campaigns.
And you've never had that in a Resident Evil game before.
No.
You never
There's no way.
I mean, Resident Evil 4 can take a little bit of time, so can 5, but it does not take 5 hours.
Because everybody was... There were so many people that were trumpeting all of the bullshit of, it's too short.
I have to disagree. I think the fact that it's kind of short and you can beat the game in less than 4 hours works to its advantage. And adds replayability.
But there is so much of a demand on visuals above gameplay and length above quality that if it's long and it looks pretty, it can be shit and not have any kind of gameplay value or replay value at all, and people are still going to buy it.
And Resident Evil 6 also does something story-wise, and it retcons a lot of the Resident Evil universe.
What did I miss?
Well, if you remember in the intro to Resident Evil 4, Leon Kennedy explains the downfall of Umbrella.
Yes.
About how the United States had come in and...
An indefinite suspension of business and pretty much shut down Umbrella.
And how the United States felt it best to launch a nuclear weapon into Raccoon City and destroy it all.
Destroy the city and get everything out of the way. And
According
get it all
to Neo-Umbrella operatives...
Oh, good God.
Neo-Umbrella?
Neo-Umbrella?
Yes.
I feel so out of the loop.
Which is comprised of, I think, some U.S. government official and Ada Wong's clone...
oh boy.
Said, oh, well, Umbrella orchestrated the nuking of Raccoon City. We did that to cover up the evidence.
What?
Yeah. I'm like, no, that's not what happened.
That's not how
you're
it works.
retconning yourself.
Why are you screwing up your own storyline?
Yeah.
Stop it.
It's only from one person, too. I mean, that's the only time you hear about it. It doesn't really make much sense why they would do that if they were on the run. They go as far as to call one of their flagship villains of the franchise a, quote, colossal imbecile. And they even give him a kid. Because Albert Wesker should definitely have kids.
No, Albert Wesker does not have children.
I mean, because that was something that could happen. Who's his mother? I really want to meet the mother. That would be the best part. It's never.
Ashford.
It's never.
I know, but that's my thought on it.
Oh yeah.
Or Ada. Miss Wong.
Wong. Anyway. Well, hello there, Mr. Wong.
Oh my God.
Anyway, Aqua Teen Hunger Force reference. Is there anything else? I hate Resident Evil 6. I'm tired of talking about it.
Yeah,
it's
just
a horrible game.
That's the end.
Don't
of the
buy
line.
it.
That is the end of the franchise thus far.
Yep.
And we are waiting patiently.
They've been talking about rebooting the whole franchise too.
They have been discussing about rebooting the whole franchise, much like they did Devil May Cry, but we won't get down that path right now.
Well, that's a topic for another day. I'll tell you
Absolutely.
about DMC, what I found out recently, what Capcom has been talking about with DMC off mic. But if they were to remake it, as long as they try to keep it in the vein of things like Resident Evil Remake,
yeah,
I think it could be successful.
Be okay, yeah.
I'd like to see what they plan on coming up with. Maybe even trying to sweet talk Shinji Mikami to coming back. Maybe. I doubt it'll happen.
Is it doable?
It's worth a shot.
Is it doable?
If you throw enough money at somebody,
I'm
bet
sure
they'll do it.
Exactly. If you throw enough money at him, I'm sure he'd be willing to. But, however, we don't know yet. We can only hope.
Where can we find you, Pat?
In bed.
In bed.
You can find me.
You mean on the couch?
I just mean asleep in general. Just done. You can find me here on YouTube on VGN, which is finally actually back up and running again.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Well, I had to find a job, so. Yeah. So the channel is back up and running. I'm actually able to record things once again, and we are soon, once I can get my editing software to not be a colossal dick and start cooperating with me, we'll be back to business as usual. So come on by. We're going to be starting some Resident Evil games soon, actually. So.
And as always, you can find me here on youtube.com/phantasmmask. From the two of us here at PWNcast, we wish you a great day, a great evening, a great morning, whatever the hell you're doing.
We never touched on why there was only two of us. I don't know if that's important, but...
It's never important.
It's never important?
It's never important.
Okay.
Your life is a lie.
I know.
PWNcast.